The metal floor was cold against Hana's cheek. She could taste blood in her mouth from where the guard had hit her during the loading process. Around her, 20 other prisoners sat in silence, their alien faces showing different expressions of fear and resignation. Some had scales, others had fur, and a few looked almost human except for their strange colored skin or extra eyes. The dropship rattled as it entered the atmosphere. Hana closed her eyes and tried to remember how she had ended up here. It had been 3 months since the Galactic Council arrested her. Her crime was simple. She had stolen medical supplies from a Talran cargo ship and delivered them to a human colony that was dying from a plague. The Council said humans were not allowed to expand beyond Earth. They called her planet a death world, too dangerous to let its people spread across the stars. The punishment for her crime was exile to Kravik 7th. Everyone in the galaxy knew what that meant. It was a prison planet where convicts were sent to die. The overseers did not even pretend it was about rehabilitation. They just opened the doors and let the prisoners run into a jungle filled with monsters. Rich aliens across the galaxy paid to watch the deaths on their screens. A voice crackled through the speakers in a language her translator implant converted to words she could understand. Prepare for drop. You have 60 seconds. The floor beneath them split open. Wind rushed into the cabin, screaming like a wounded animal. Hana grabbed onto a metal bar as the ship tilted. She could see the planet below through the opening. Red jungle stretched in every direction, broken only by black mountains that looked like broken teeth against the sky. One by one, the prisoners were pushed out. Some screamed. Others went silently. When Hana's turn came, a guard with 4 arms shoved her toward the edge. She did not fight. There was no point. Instead, she looked at the guard's face and memorized it. If she somehow survived, she would remember everyone who had done this to her. Then she was falling. The drop took less than a minute, but it felt like hours. A parachute deployed automatically from her prison uniform, slowing her descent just enough that she would not die on impact. She could see other parachutes scattered across the sky, prisoners drifting down like seeds from a dying tree. Hana hit the ground hard. Her legs buckled and she rolled through thick vegetation. Thorns tore at her uniform and skin. When she finally stopped, she lay still for a moment, checking her body for serious injuries. Nothing broken. Just cuts and bruises. She stood up slowly and looked around. The jungle was alive with sounds she had never heard before. Strange birds called from the canopy above. Something large moved through the undergrowth nearby, making the bushes shake. The air was thick and hot, harder to breathe than Earth's atmosphere. Her uniform had a small pocket on the chest. Inside was a knife, barely longer than her hand, and a translator implant that was already in her skull. That was all they gave prisoners. The knife was dull and made of cheap metal, but it was better than nothing. Other prisoners were landing nearby. Hana watched a tall alien with blue skin crash through the trees and hit the ground running, without even checking his surroundings. Another prisoner, this one covered in gray fur, landed and immediately started climbing a tree to hide. Smart, Hana thought, but not smart enough. She could see claw marks on the tree trunks all around them. Something that climbed lived here. A scream cut through the air. It came from the west, maybe half a mile away. Then another scream, closer this time. Then silence. Hana started moving. She did not run. Running meant making noise and getting tired. Instead, she walked carefully, testing each step before putting her weight down. She had learned this from her grandfather, who had been a soldier on Earth before the aliens made contact. He had taught her how to move quietly, how to read terrain, how to survive when everything wanted you dead. The jungle grew darker as she moved deeper into it. The canopy overhead blocked out most of the light. She could hear water running somewhere ahead. Water meant life, but it also meant predators. Everything needed to drink. She found a stream after 20 minutes of walking. The water was clear and cold, running over black rocks that looked like glass. Hana knelt down and drank, keeping her eyes on the jungle around her. While she drank, she noticed something strange. There were bones scattered along the stream bank. Some were small, maybe from creatures the size of rats. Others were much larger, bigger than anything that should exist. A twig snapped behind her. Hana spun around, her knife already in her hand. At first she saw nothing. Then the jungle seemed to separate and a creature stepped into view. It stood on 2 legs, maybe 8 feet tall. Its body was covered in scales that shifted color to match the jungle around it. The head was reptilian with a mouth full of teeth that curved backward like fishhooks, But the eyes were the worst part. They were intelligent. This thing was not just an animal. It was a hunter that could think. The creature made a clicking sound deep in its throat. Two more appeared from the jungle on either side. They had been coordinating, surrounding her like wolves. These were the Vixari. She had heard about them during the trial. They had once been a spacefaring species that raided other worlds for sport. The Council had captured them and dumped them all on Kravik 7 to kill each other and anyone else who got sent here. The center Vixari clicked again. The other two began to circle. Hana backed up slowly, keeping the stream behind her. They were trying to herd her, push her toward something. Maybe more of them were waiting. She did not let them. Instead, she did something they did not expect. She attacked. Hana rushed forward low and fast, going straight for the center Vixari. It was bigger than the others, probably the leader. It expected her to run or beg. It did not expect prey to fight back. Her knife found the soft spot under its jaw where the scales were thinner. She drove the blade up with both hands using all her weight. Hot blood poured over her hands. The creature made a choking sound and tried to grab her, but its claws scraped against her shoulders instead of finding a grip. They fell together into the stream. The Vixari thrashed, its tail whipping back and forth. Hana held onto the knife, twisting it deeper. She had learned this from her grandfather, too. When you fight something bigger than you do not let go. You finish it. The other two Vixari stood frozen, watching their leader die in the water. They had hunted thousands of prey animals and hundreds of prisoners. They had never seen anything like this small creature from Earth. When the center Vixari finally stopped moving, Hana pulled her knife free and stood up in the stream. Blood washed away in the current. She looked at the other two Vixari and did not run. They did. Hana watched them disappear into the jungle. Then she looked up at the sky where she knew cameras were watching, broadcasting everything to the galaxy. She did not smile or make threats. She just went back to drinking from the stream, washing the blood from her hands and face. Somewhere in orbit, in the prison control station, alarms were going off. The entertainment program that was supposed to show her death in the first hour had just become something else entirely. The Deathworlder had refused to die, and now she was going to make them regret sending her here. 3 days had passed since Hana killed the Vixari leader. She had not seen another prisoner since the drop. Most were probably dead. The lucky ones died quickly. The unlucky ones lasted long enough to understand what kind of hell they had been thrown into. Hana had found shelter in a cave hidden behind a waterfall. The cave was shallow, only about 10 feet deep, but it gave her a place to sleep without something creeping up behind her. She had checked for animal signs before moving in. No tracks, no droppings, no bones. It was empty. During the day, she explored the area around her shelter. She marked trees with her knife, creating a mental map of the terrain. She found edible plants by watching what the small animals ate. If they could digest it, she probably could too. Her grandfather had taught her this as well. Nature always showed you what was safe if you paid attention. On the 4th day, she heard voices. Human voices. Hana moved toward the sound carefully. Through the trees, she spotted 2 people sitting by a small fire. One was a man with dark hair, wearing a torn prison uniform like hers. The other was a woman with pale green skin and mechanical implants along her arms. The man looked up as she approached. His hand went to a rock he had sharpened into a crude blade. "Stop there," he said. His accent was strange, but her translator handled it. "I'm human," Hana said, showing her empty hands. "My name is Hana." The man relaxed slightly. "Doyen, this is Minji." He gestured to the green-skinned woman who nodded but kept her distance. "We saw what you did at the stream. Everyone did. The whole galaxy saw it." Hana sat down across from them, keeping the fire between them. "How do you know what they saw?" Minji spoke for the first time. Her voice was soft but precise. "Because I can still pick up transmissions from the orbital station. They broadcast everything that happens here. You killed a Vixari pack leader with a prison knife. The viewership numbers went crazy. Some channels are calling you the Deathworld girl." "I just wanted to survive," Hana said. "Well, you did more than that," Doyen replied. He poked at the fire with a stick. "You scared them. The Vixari have been avoiding this whole sector since that fight. They've never had prey fight back like that." Minji leaned forward. "We want to propose something. An alliance. 3 of us have better odds than 1. Hana studied them both. Doyen looked capable, like someone who had military training. Minji was clearly intelligent. Probably an engineer or scientist based on her implants. They could be useful, or they could betray her when resources got scarce. What are your stories? Hana asked. Why did they send you here? Doyen went first. I was a pilot in the Talran fleet. They ordered me to bomb a civilian colony during a minor rebellion. I refused. They court-martialed me and sent me here instead of just executing me. I think they wanted to make an example. Minji adjusted one of her implants before speaking. I'm Krell. I built an artificial intelligence without government approval. On my world, that's a death sentence. They said my creation was too dangerous, that it could think for itself. They destroyed my lab and everyone in it. I survived because I wasn't there that day. Then they caught me and sent me here. Both of their crimes were about refusing to follow orders that would hurt innocent people. Hana understood that. I stole medicine for a human colony that was dying from plague. The council said we weren't allowed to have it. Doyen nodded slowly. So we're all criminals because we tried to help people. The galaxy's justice system is broken. It's not broken, Minji said quietly. It's working exactly as designed. The people in power stay in power. Everyone else is disposable. They sat in silence for a moment. Finally, Hana spoke. All right. We work together. But we need rules. No stealing from each other. No abandoning each other unless there's no choice. And if one of us gets infected or too injured to continue, we handle it quickly and cleanly. Agreed, Doyen said. Minji nodded. Over the next 2 weeks, they transformed the area around Hana's cave into a defensible position. Doyen built simple alarms using vines and rocks that would make noise if something disturbed them. Minji found plants that could be processed into basic tools and weapons. Hana taught them both how to move quietly and read tracks. But mostly, Hana hunted. She started with reconnaissance. Every morning, she went out alone to study the Vexari. She learned their patterns. They hunted in packs of 3 to 5, usually at dawn and dusk. They marked their territory with claw marks on trees and piles of bones at trail intersections. They communicated with clicks and hisses that her translator could not fully convert, but she learned to recognize the sounds that meant danger or food or retreat. She also learned their weakness. The Vexari were ambush predators. They relied on camouflage and surprise. When prey fought back effectively, they became confused. Their tactics fell apart. Hana used this knowledge to set traps, simple ones at first, a sharpened stake hidden in leaves along a game trail. A deadfall made from heavy rocks balanced above a narrow pass. Each trap was designed to injure, not kill. Injured Vexari made noise. Noise attracted other predators. The jungle would do the rest of the work. Her first successful trap caught a Vexari scout on the 10th day. She heard it screaming from half a mile away, caught in a snare that had pulled it 10 feet off the ground. By the time its pack members found it, something else had already discovered the helpless hunter. Hana watched from a hidden position as a creature that looked like a giant spider dragged the Vexari's body away. The pack searched the area for whoever had set the trap. They found nothing. Hana was already gone. Word spread among the Vexari. Their cliques became more aggressive, more fearful. They started avoiding certain areas entirely. The invisible hunter from Earth was turning their world upside down. In the orbital station, the prison overseers watched with mixed feelings. On one hand, viewership had never been higher. Advertisers were paying triple rates for time slots during Hana's segments. On the other hand, the Vexari were supposed to be the apex predators. Having them retreat from a single human girl was bad for the narrative. Overseer Kalen, a Talran official with gray skin and cold yellow eyes, studied the monitors showing Hana's location. Increase the reward, he ordered his assistant. Tell the Vexari packs that whoever brings us the human's head will get extra rations for a month. The assistant hesitated. Sir, is that wise? If we interfere too directly, the council might... The council doesn't care what happens here, Kalen interrupted. As long as the profits keep flowing and the prisoners keep dying, we can do whatever we want. Now send the message. The next day, everything changed. Hana was checking one of her trap lines when she heard them coming. Not one pack, at least 3, maybe 4. Over a dozen Vexari, all moving through the jungle in a coordinated sweep. They had changed their tactics. Instead of small hunting parties, they were sending an army. She ran back toward the cave, staying off the main trails. Behind her, the Vexari spread out in a net formation, trying to cut off her escape routes. They were learning. That was dangerous. Hana reached the cave and found Doyen and Minji already preparing. They had heard the noise. How many? Doyen asked, gripping his sharpened rock. Too many, Hana replied. We can't fight them all head-on. Minji pointed to the waterfall. What if we collapse the path? Make it harder for them to reach us? It was a good idea, but it would also trap them inside. No. They needed a better plan. Hana looked at the forest around them, then at the steep cliff above the waterfall. An idea formed in her mind. It was risky, maybe suicidal, but it might work. We're not going to run, she said. We're going to kill them all. Doyen stared at her. You're insane. Probably, Hana agreed. But I'm also right. If we run, they'll just keep hunting us. We need to make them afraid. Really afraid. So afraid that they never come after us again. She explained her plan quickly. They had maybe 20 minutes before the Vexari arrived. It would have to be enough. As the sun began to set and the jungle filled with shadows, the Vexari pack closed in on the waterfall. They could smell the humans. Victory was close. They did not notice the carefully placed rocks above the cliff. They did not see the vines that had been tied in specific patterns. They did not understand the trap until it was too late. When the first Vexari stepped onto the killing ground, Hana cut the vines. Tons of rock and debris came crashing down, creating a landslide that swept half the pack off the cliff and into the ravine below. The survivors scattered in panic. That's when Doyen and Minji attacked from the flanks, using spears they had crafted from straight branches. They did not kill many, but they did not need to. They just needed to create chaos. And in the chaos, Hana moved like death itself, her knife finding throats and eyes with brutal efficiency. When it was over, 9 Vexari lay dead or dying. The rest had fled into the jungle, clicking in terror. Hana stood on the cliff edge, covered in blood that was not her own. In orbit, billions of viewers watched in stunned silence. The prey had become the predator, and the hunt had only just begun. 6 months changed everything. The cave behind the waterfall had become a fortress. Wooden walls reinforced with mud and stone surrounded the entrance. Watchtowers built from salvaged metal and strong branches stood at key positions. Alarm systems made from scavenged technology and natural materials covered every approach. What had started as 3 survivors had grown into a community of 31. Prisoners who had spent weeks hiding in the jungle heard stories about the human who fought back. They came seeking protection, offering skills and trade for safety. A Relian doctor named Juan who could treat injuries. A Voss mechanic named Borum who could fix almost anything. A Kresh warrior named Nari who had been a gladiator before her exile. Each person added strength to their group. Hana stood on the main watchtower, looking out over what prisoners now called the Dead Zone. It was the territory she controlled, roughly 5 square miles of jungle where Vexari hunting parties no longer dared to enter. The bodies of those who had tried served as warnings. Skulls hung from trees. Bones marked the boundaries. You've got that look again, Doyen said, climbing up beside her. He had become her second in command, the person she trusted most. What look? The one that says you're thinking about something big. He leaned against the railing they had built. What's wrong? We're safer than we've ever been. We have food, water, shelter. The Vexari avoid us. We're surviving. That's the problem, Hana replied. We're only surviving, and they're getting ready to change that. She pointed toward the distant mountains. I've been watching the surveillance drones. They're flying different patterns now, focusing on something in the deep jungle. The overseers are planning something. Minji emerged from the ladder shaft carrying a piece of equipment covered in wires. She's right. I've been monitoring transmissions. They're talking about ratings dropping. Viewers are getting bored. They want something bigger. Let them want, Doyen said. What can they do? They already threw us into hell. They can make hell worse, Hana said quietly. She was right. 3 days later, the jungle changed. Birds that usually filled the air with noise fell silent. Small animals disappeared from their regular trails. Even the Vexari pulled back their territories, retreating to their deepest strongholds. Something was coming. Hana organized scouting parties to investigate. They moved in groups of 4, heavily armed with spears, bows, and blades. She led one group herself with Doyun, Nari, and Borum. They found the first body 2 miles south of their camp. It was a Vexari, but not killed in any way Hana recognized. The creature had been torn apart. Its armored scales peeled back like paper. Acid burns covered the surrounding vegetation. What could do this? Nari asked. The Kresh warrior had fought dozens of different species in the gladiator pits. She had never seen damage like this. Borum examined the burns carefully. This acid is incredibly strong. It's eating through metal-reinforced scales. Whatever made it is chemically sophisticated. They followed the trail of destruction deeper into the jungle. More bodies appeared. Vexari, prisoner corpses, even massive predators that usually ruled these territories. Everything was being killed by something that left acid and devastation in its wake. Then they heard it. A sound like grinding metal mixed with a biological roar. Deep, hungry. Wrong. Back to camp, Hana ordered. Now they ran. Behind them, trees exploded as something massive pushed through the jungle. Hana risked a glance backward and immediately wished she hadn't. The creature was at least 40 feet long, with a body that seemed designed by nightmares. Its scales were black and thick as armor plating. 6 legs ending in claws that could crush stone. A head that was mostly mouth filled with multiple rows of teeth and eyes. Too many eyes scattered across its skull, all focused on the fleeing humans. The Nightmaw. She had heard prisoners whisper about it in terrified voices. A bioweapon created by the old galactic military, designed to hunt the most dangerous prey. The overseers kept it in stasis, only releasing it when they needed to clean out prisoner populations that grew too large. They had released it for her. The group split up as they ran, trying to confuse the creature. It worked partially. The Nightmaw paused, uncertain which target to pursue. That moment of hesitation saved their lives. They made it back to camp with the monster minutes behind them. Battle positions, Hana shouted as she burst through the gates. The alarm horns were already sounding. Everyone in camp knew the drill. They had practiced for attacks dozens of times, but nothing had prepared them for this. The Nightmaw hit their outer defenses like a living earthquake. Wooden walls shattered. Alarm systems triggered uselessly. The creature's acid blood sprayed across everything it touched, dissolving metal and burning through stone. Hana's people fought back with everything they had. Spears bounced off its armored hide. Arrows stuck but did not penetrate deep enough to cause real damage. The creature swept its massive head sideways, catching 3 defenders and sending them flying into the jungle. Aim for the eyes, Hana screamed. It's the only weak point. They tried. A few arrows found their marks and the Nightmaw roared in pain. But it had too many eyes. Blinding a few only made it angrier. Juan, the doctor, went down trying to pull an injured person to safety. The Nightmaw's claw caught him across the chest. He died instantly. Borum fell next, crushed under a collapsing watchtower. They were losing. Hana's mind raced. The creature was too strong for direct combat. But it was still an animal. It had instincts, behaviors, weaknesses. Her grandfather's voice echoed in her memory. When you can't fight harder, fight smarter. Minji, she shouted across the chaos. The thermal vent south of here. Can we lead it there? Minji's eyes widened with understanding. If we can confuse its hunting senses, yes. But how do we get it to follow? Leave that to me, Hana said. She grabbed a torch from a fallen watchtower and ran straight at the Nightmaw, screaming at the top of her lungs. The creature's remaining eyes locked onto her. She was the primary target, the one the overseers wanted dead. Some instinct programmed into its brain made it focus on her above all others. Hana ran, not toward safety, but toward the thermal vent canyon she had discovered months ago. It was a place where volcanic activity created dozens of hot springs and geysers, releasing constant heat into the air. The Nightmaw pursued, destroying everything in its path. Behind them, Doyun led the remaining survivors in a desperate evacuation of the camp. If Hana's plan failed, they would need to scatter into the jungle and hope some of them survived. The canyon appeared ahead. Hana could feel the heat from 50 yards away. She pushed herself harder, her lungs burning, legs screaming. The creature was right behind her, so close she could smell its acid breath. She leaped over the canyon edge, catching a vine she had placed weeks ago for emergencies. The vine swung her to a narrow ledge on the canyon wall. The Nightmaw, too massive and too focused on its prey, could not stop. It plunged into the canyon. The thermal vents erupted around it. Steam and heat flooded the area. The Nightmaw thrashed, confused. Its heat-sensing organs were overwhelmed by the dozens of thermal signatures surrounding it. It could not tell which was prey and which was rock. Hana climbed to the canyon rim where Minji waited with others. They had brought the explosives Minji had been crafting from salvaged materials, not powerful enough to kill the creature, but strong enough to collapse the canyon walls. Do it, Hana said. The explosions triggered a landslide. Tons of rock and earth poured into the canyon, burying the Nightmaw alive. The creature's roars faded slowly, then stopped. Silence fell over the jungle. Hana dropped to her knees, exhausted. Around her, the survivors gathered. They had lost 17 people. More than half their community was gone. The camp they had built was destroyed, but they had won. Surveillance drones circled overhead, broadcasting everything to the galaxy. Hana stood on shaking legs and looked directly at the nearest camera. Her face was covered in dirt and blood. Her eyes were hard as stone. "Tell the council this," she said, her voice carrying in the sudden quiet. "Earth didn't make us weak. It made us survivors, and you should have left us alone." In orbit, Overseer Kalen watched the broadcast. For the first time since taking this position, he felt something unfamiliar. Fear. The human girl was supposed to die in the first hour. Instead, she had killed a bioweapon that had taken geneticists decades to create. She had lost more than half her people and still stood defiant. What kind of species was this? Across the galaxy, billions of viewers asked themselves the same question. The council's emergency session was called within the hour. Half the members demanded Earth be sterilized immediately. The other half, seeing the public response, argued for something different. Maybe humanity deserved a chance. But first, they would need to deal with the girl who had refused to die. The girl who had become a symbol of resistance. The girl who had shown the galaxy that Deathworlders were not just dangerous, they were unstoppable. Hana did not know about any of this. She was too busy organizing search parties for survivors and planning where to build their new camp. The fight was not over. It would never be over. Not until they found a way off this planet or died trying. But for now, they had survived another day, and sometimes that was victory enough. The message came 3 weeks after the Nightmaw's death. It was broadcast across every speaker system on Kravik 7, in every language the translator implants could handle. Attention all prisoners. The Vexari leadership requests a meeting with the human called Hana. Neutral ground. Dawn tomorrow. Come alone. Hana stood in the center of their new camp, listening to the message repeat. Around her, the 14 remaining survivors of her original group gathered. They had picked up 6 more refugees since the Nightmaw attack, bringing their total back to 20. "It's obviously a trap," Doyen said immediately. "They want you isolated so they can kill you." "Maybe," Hana replied. "But maybe not. The Vexari have been quiet since the canyon. No attacks, no scouting parties. Something changed." Nari, the Crash warrior, nodded slowly. "I've fought Vexari before in the pits. They respect strength above everything else. You've killed more of them than anyone in their recorded history. To them that means something." Minji was less optimistic. Even if they're serious about talking, what could they possibly want? Hana had been thinking about that question since the message arrived. The answer was obvious once you understood the situation. They want the same thing we do. Freedom from the overseers. The meeting place was a clearing near the border between Hana's territory and Vexari lands. She arrived at dawn as requested, alone but heavily armed. A knife at her hip, another strapped to her leg, and a spear across her back. 5 Vexari waited for her. The largest one stepped forward. Its scales were darker than the others, marked with scars from countless battles. When it spoke, her translator rendered the clicks and hisses into words. "I am Rakesh, war leader of the Western clans. You are the Deathworlder who refuses to die." "I am Hana," she replied. "Why did you call this meeting?" "Because we have a common enemy," Rakesh said. "The Skywatchers who control this world. They profit from our violence. They use us as entertainment for soft species who have never hunted, never fought, never earned the right to judge us." Another Vexari spoke, its voice higher pitched. "We were warriors. We conquered 12 star systems before the Council used their weapons against us. They did not defeat us in honorable combat. They used disease and poison. Then they threw us here to die slowly." Hana listened carefully. She had assumed the Vexari were simple monsters. But their story was more complicated. They had been imprisoned just like her, just like every other convict on this planet. "What do you want from me?" she asked. "Alliance," Rakesh said. "Together we can take the orbital station, free ourselves, perhaps even take ships and leave this cursed world." It was tempting. With Vexari warriors and human tactics combined, they might actually have a chance. But Hana had learned to be suspicious of easy answers. "And after we take the station, what then? Do we go back to killing each other?" Rakesh was quiet for a moment. That depends. Can a Deathworlder live beside a hunter species without trying to dominate? Can a hunter species live beside humans without trying to make us prey? Hana countered. They stared at each other. Finally, Rakesh made a sound that might have been laughter. You think like a warrior. I respect that. Yes, I believe we can coexist, if you prove yourself worthy of trust. And how do I do that? Help us kill Overseer Kalen. He controls the station's defense systems and supply chains. Without him, the other overseers will panic. Then we strike. Hana considered it. Killing Kalen would be difficult, but not impossible. Minji could probably hack into some of the station's systems. Doyen knew how Talrin military facilities were designed, and she had proven she could infiltrate and kill when necessary. But there was a larger question. If we succeed, what happens to the other prisoners? The ones who aren't fighters? They make their own choices, Rakesh said. We have no interest in ruling others. We only want freedom to live as we choose. It was not a perfect answer, but it was honest. Hana made her decision. All right, we have an alliance. But if you betray us, I will personally hunt down every clan leader and make what I did to your hunting parties look merciful. Rakesh showed his teeth in what might have been a smile. I would expect nothing less from a Deathworlder. Planning the assault took 2 weeks. Minji worked with a Vexari tech specialist named Jinwoo to map the station's systems. They discovered that Overseer Kalen lived in a private section separated from the main facility. He was paranoid about prisoner uprisings and kept himself isolated. That paranoia would be his downfall. Doyen led the planning sessions, using his knowledge of Talrin military protocols. The station has defensive turrets, but they're focused outward to prevent escape. Internal security is mostly guards and cameras. If we can disable the surveillance system, we can move freely. How do we get up there? Nari asked. The transport ships are automated and locked, Minji smiled. Leave that to me. I've been working on something. What she had been working on was a hack of the supply drone system. Every week, automated drones brought food and equipment to the station from nearby colony worlds. If they could hijack one, they could ride it up to the station. The plan was insane. It was also their only chance. On the night of the assault, 15 humans and 20 Vexari gathered at the designated landing zone. The supply drone descended on schedule, its cargo bay filled with food containers. As soon as it touched down, they rushed inside. The drone's automated systems did not detect the extra weight. It lifted off smoothly, carrying its unauthorized passengers toward orbit. Inside the cramped cargo bay, Hana sat across from Rakesh. Neither spoke. There was nothing left to say. They would either succeed and change everything, or fail and die in space. Simple as that. The drone docked with the station. Its cargo doors opened automatically. Hana went first, moving fast and low. The loading bay was empty except for 2 guards. They were not expecting an attack from inside a supply drone. They died before they could raise an alarm. The group split up according to plan. Rakesh led the Vexari toward the guard barracks to prevent reinforcements. Doyen took a team to secure the hangar and the escape ships. Hana, Minji, and Nari headed for Kalen's quarters. They encountered resistance in the hallways. Station security was minimal but not non-existent. Hana fought with brutal efficiency, her knife finding throats before enemies could fire their weapons. Nari used her gladiator training to devastating effect, breaking bones and crushing windpipes. Minji disabled security systems as they moved, keeping surveillance offline. They reached Kalen's door. It was sealed with biometric locks. Can you open it? Hana asked. Minji examined the panel. Give me 2 minutes. They did not have 2 minutes. Alarms were blaring throughout the station. More guards would arrive soon. Break it down, Hana ordered. Nari kicked the door repeatedly. The metal dented, then cracked. One more kick and it gave way. Inside, Overseer Kalen stood behind a desk holding a plasma pistol. His yellow eyes were wide with fear and rage. You're supposed to be dead, he screamed. All of you. The Nightmaw should have killed you. It tried, Hana said calmly. It failed. Just like you failed, Kalen fired. The plasma bolt went wide, hitting the wall behind them. His hands were shaking too badly to aim properly. Hana crossed the room in 3 strides. She knocked the pistol from his hand and grabbed him by the throat, slamming him against the wall. Please, Kalen gasped. I can give you money, ships, anything you want. I want justice, Hana said. For everyone you sent to die for entertainment. For every person who suffered because you wanted profit. She dragged him to the window overlooking the planet. Look down there. That's where you threw us. That's where you expected us to die like animals. But we didn't. We survived. We adapted. We became stronger than you ever imagined. What do you want from me? Kaylin whispered. I want you to broadcast the truth. Tell the galaxy what really happens here. Tell them about the profit schemes, the bribes, the corruption. Tell them everything. Kaylin's face went pale. If I do that, the council will execute me. If you don't, I'll throw you out of this airlock right now, Hana replied. Choose. He chose. 30 minutes later, every screen in the galaxy showed Overseer Kaylin confessing to decades of crimes. He detailed the corruption network, named council members who took bribes, revealed how prisoner deaths were staged for maximum entertainment value. He destroyed himself and dozens of powerful officials with his testimony. The galaxy watched in shock. Protests erupted on dozens of worlds. Demonstrators demanded reform of the prison system. Some called for the council's resignation. The carefully constructed facade of galactic justice crumbled in hours. On Kravik 7, prisoners gathered around transmission screens in disbelief. They were watching their jailers be held accountable for the first time. Hana stood in the station's command center, watching the chaos unfold. Doyen approached from behind. The ships are ready. We can leave whenever you want. Hana shook her head. Not yet. If we run now, the council will just cover this up and nothing will change. We need to stay and make sure this matters. Stay? Doyen looked incredulous. Hana, we won. We can go home. Earth isn't home anymore, Hana said quietly. Not after this. Everything's changed. We changed it. She looked out at the planet below, at the jungle that had tried to kill her and failed. She thought about the people she had lost, the ones who had died to get them this far. The galaxy needs to see that Deathworlders aren't monsters. The council chamber was the largest room Hana had ever seen. It stretched for hundreds of yards in every direction, with seats arranged in circular tiers rising toward a domed ceiling made of transparent crystal. Through it, she could see the stars and the massive space stations that orbited the council homeworld. Thousands of beings filled those seats, representatives from every member species of the Galactic Council. They had come to witness history. The trial of the human from Kravik 7 Hana stood alone on a platform in the center of the chamber. She wore simple clothes, not the prisoner uniform she had worn for months, but not anything fancy either. Just practical pants, a shirt, and boots. She kept her knife on her belt. The guards had tried to take it, but she refused. If they wanted to kill her, they would have to try. The head judge was a Voxen named Hyon, a species that looked like they were carved from blue crystal. His voice echoed through the chamber without need for amplification. The council recognizes the accused. State your name and world of origin. Hana, from Earth. A murmur ran through the crowd. Earth, the forbidden death world. The planet the council had quarantined because they believed humans were too dangerous. Hyon continued. You stand accused of multiple crimes, theft of medical supplies, unauthorized travel, assaulting council enforcement officers, and most seriously inciting rebellion on a council correctional facility. How do you plead? Guilty, Hana said simply. I did all of those things. The murmur grew louder. Her lawyer, a human diplomat named Junho who had been sent from Earth, looked panicked. They had spent hours discussing strategy, and she had just ignored all of it. But Hana was not interested in legal tricks. She was interested in truth. I stole medicine because my people were dying, and the council said we were not allowed to have it. I traveled without permission because humans are not allowed to leave our own planet. I fought back when they tried to kill me. And yes, I incited rebellion. Because what was happening on Kravik 7th was wrong, and everyone knew it. Hyun's expression did not change. You admit your crimes, then there is nothing left to discuss. The council will deliberate on appropriate punishment. No, Hana said firmly. There's plenty left to discuss. If this is really a trial, then I get to present my defense. That's how justice works, isn't it? The prosecutor, a Talrin official named Chanwu, stood up. The accused has already confessed. What defense could possibly matter now? The defense that you're all cowards, Hana said loudly. That you built this entire system on fear and lies. That you call my planet a death world and quarantine us like we're a disease, but you've never even tried to understand what that means. The chamber exploded with noise. Some delegates shouted in anger. Others called for order. Hyun raised his hand and silence gradually returned. Explain yourself, he said carefully. Hana took a breath. This was the moment everything came down to. Either she convinced them, or humanity remained isolated forever. You call Earth a death world because it's dangerous. Because our gravity is higher than most species can handle. Because our atmosphere has high oxygen content. Because we have predators and diseases and weather that can kill. And you're right, Earth is all of those things. She walked slowly around the platform, making eye contact with delegates. But every species here survived something. You, she pointed at a Voxen delegate, your people evolved on a world with radiation levels that would kill most species. You, pointing at a Krell, your people survived ice ages that lasted thousands of years. Every single species in this room came from somewhere that tried to kill them. The only difference is that you forgot what it cost. That is different, Chanwu argued. We evolved past our primitive origins. We became civilized. Humans are still controlled by their violent instincts. Really? Hana challenged. Because from what I saw, civilized species are pretty good at violence when it suits them. You sent me to die on Kravix 7 for entertainment. You created the Nightmaw to kill prisoners. You built an entire economy around broadcasting death to billions of viewers. Who's really the violent species here? More noise from the crowd. Jan did not call for silence this time. He seemed interested in where this was going. Hana continued. You're afraid of Deathworlders because we remind you of what you used to be. We're strong, we adapt fast, we don't give up. Those traits scare you because you've spent so long being safe that you forgot how to be dangerous. But the galaxy isn't safe, it never was. You just built walls high enough that you could pretend. A delegate from the Relian systems stood up. Even if what you say is true, it does not change the fact that humans are unpredictable. Aggressive, too dangerous to integrate. Aggressive? Hana laughed bitterly. I watched humans give their lives to save aliens they barely knew on Kravik 7. I watched a human pilot refuse to bomb civilians even though it meant his death. I watched a Krell engineer create tools to help everyone survive, not just herself. The most violent people I met were the ones running the prison for profit. She turned back to Hyun. You want to know what makes humans dangerous? It's not our strength or our violence. It's that we don't accept injustice. When we see something wrong, we try to fix it, even if it costs us everything. Especially if it costs us everything, that's what you're really afraid of. The chamber fell silent. Hana's words hung in the air like smoke. Finally, Hyun spoke. You make bold claims, but claims are not evidence. Can you prove that humanity deserves integration? I already did, Hana said. You sent me to die. Instead, I survived, built a community, and exposed the corruption in your prison system. I did that using human traits: adaptation, endurance, refusal to quit. If those traits make us too dangerous, then you're saying survival itself is a crime. Junho, her lawyer, stood up nervously. If I may add to my client's defense, since her broadcast from Kravik 7, 17 other correctional facilities have been investigated. Corruption has been found in 12 of them. 6 council members have resigned. The reforms she triggered have saved thousands of lives. Is that the action of a dangerous criminal? Chanwu, the prosecutor, looked uncomfortable. The trial was not going the way he expected. Even so, he said weakly, the accused broke fundamental laws. She cannot simply walk free. I don't want to walk free, Hana said. I want something better. I want the council to lift Earth's quarantine. I want humanity to be given a chance to prove ourselves. And I want meaningful reform of how the galaxy treats its prisoners. And if the council refuses? Hyun asked. Hana smiled without humor. Then you'll prove that everything I said is true. That this council is more interested in control than justice. And eventually, humanity will leave Earth whether you give us permission or not. We always find a way. The head judge sat back in his seat, The council will deliberate. The deliberation took 3 days. During that time, Hana was kept in comfortable quarters under guard. Yunho visited regularly with updates. Public opinion was divided. Some species wanted Earth sterilized immediately, terrified of what humans represented. Others, especially younger generations who had watched her broadcasts, supported her. On the 3rd day, she was brought back to the chamber. Hyun stood. The council has reached a decision. After extensive debate and consideration of all evidence, we find that while the accused is guilty of the crimes stated, the circumstances surrounding those crimes warrant special consideration. He paused. Hana held her breath. Hana of Earth, you are hereby pardoned for all crimes committed. Furthermore, the council votes to lift Earth's quarantine status, pending a probationary period of 10 years. During this time, humanity will be permitted limited travel and trade. If your species demonstrates the ability to integrate peacefully, full membership will be granted. The chamber erupted. Some delegates cheered. Others protested loudly. Hana felt her knees go weak. Hyun continued over the noise. Additionally, you are appointed as humanity's first ambassador to the council. You will represent your people and help bridge the gap between Deathworlders and the broader galactic community. After the trial, Hana stood on an observation deck, looking down at the galaxy spread out below. Junho approached, smiling. You did it. You actually did it. We'll see, Hana said. This is just the beginning. We have 10 years to prove ourselves. If we fail, Earth goes back into quarantine, and this was all for nothing. Do you think we'll succeed? Hana thought about the people she had lost on Kravik's 7th, Juan the doctor, Borum the mechanic, dozens of others whose names she had memorized. They died believing something better was possible. Yes, she said finally. Because that's what humans do. We survive. We adapt. And we never, ever give up. 6 months later, Kravik 7 was officially converted from a prison to a rehabilitation colony. Doyon became its first administrator, working with Vexari clan leaders to create a new society. Minji led the engineering teams rebuilding the infrastructure. The former prisoners were given a choice: stay and help build something new or take ships to anywhere in the galaxy. Most stayed. They had learned something valuable in that jungle, that different species could work together when they shared. A common goal Hana visited once, wearing her ambassador uniform but still carrying her knife. She walked through the new settlement, seeing buildings made from both Vexari and human designs. She saw children of different species playing,